everybody's time. So good afternoon. Welcome to the September edition of the Sandag Borders Committee. I am very privileged to be the vice chair of this committee, especially coming from Imperial County as a supervisor here, District 1. It is an honor, a privilege to be with you today and to serve as vice chair. Unfortunately, Serge Dedina, our chair, had a prior commitment and is unable to attend, so you get me. So my apologies. Before we start the meeting, a couple of housekeeping or congratulations are in order. First of all, I think I already mentioned it when I first joined, but I want to re-mention it to the entire committee, is that we want to congratulate Ms. Francesca Webb for the position of new clerk of the board. I appreciate what you've done so far, and I just want to congratulate you on this new position. Second of all, I also want to thank Tessa Lero and the entire production team for their support and assistance in navigating the technologies and new practices. Unfortunately, Zoom is the new norm. I'm not too happy about it. I'm sure others aren't as well, but it is what we need in order to keep us safe. So again, Tessa, thank you. Production team, thank you for your support. It hasn't been easy. It's been very challenging. So again, we all want to thank you for what you've done. Tessa, anything else that we need to discuss before we move on that I'm missing?
I don't think so.
All right, I'm going to read these this next housekeeping because it is a little technical and it's Zoom related. For board committee members, please note that you are not automatically muted by the meeting organizer, so you will have to mute yourself. In addition, when you would like to speak, please turn on your camera or raise your hand by opening your participants panel on the Zoom toolbar and clicking raise hand at the bottom. Once I see you, I will recognize you at that time. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on an item, please use the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar. When you are called on by the chair, you will be unmuted by Sandag staff. If you're calling in by phone, you may need to enter 6 to unmute yourself. After your comments, you will be muted by Sandag staff. If you're calling into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone if you would like to comment on any item. All comments, whether emailed or live, will be made part of today's meeting's record. Any questions by the audience? All right, let's move on to item number 1, approval of the minutes. I believe there's 5 sets of minutes. If I can get a motion, I would appreciate it.
Ron Hall, make a motion to approve.
And Sankey second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Vice Chair, if I could take a roll call vote so that we could get each one individually for the voting record.
My apologies, go ahead.
That's okay. We are going to vote on all the sets of minutes at once, though. So for the City of San Diego, Councilmember Moreno.
Moreno, aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Cox.
Cox, aye.
Thank you. For East County, Councilmember Hall.
Councilmember Hall, aye.
Thank you. For Imperial County, Vice Chair Escobar.
Escobar, aye.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Deputy Mayor Feller.
Feller, aye.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, aye.
Thank you. And that passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 2, public comments. Ms. Webb, do we have any comments from the public?
I do not see any hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, executive report. I believe this report will be given by Mr. Jim Linthicum, Chief of Capital Programs and Regional Services for Sandag. Jim, it's all yours.
Thank you, Vice Chair, but I believe Hassan is in this meeting, so
Yes, I am, Jim. You can do it, or I can do it. Up to you. You probably
You
do
guys,
it.
you guys threw me a curveball then. No problem.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good afternoon to all of you. I appreciate the few minutes to update you on important stuff that's going on. I just want to first acknowledge last week my staff and I had a great discussion with our partner tribal nations. I want to thank Erica and the chair people who guided the discussion. I thought it was a very fruitful discussion. It's important that our partners have ample opportunity and have the resources to give input to our planning. And I look forward to working with our partners, the tribal nations, for a greater collaboration in the future. And again, I want to thank Erica Pinto for being there and guiding the discussion through. I want management to acknowledge that our board of directors took action on the internal audit report last week. I want to acknowledge the audit staff and our management for working together toward moving forward with the recommendations that agreed open by the board of directors. The next step for this is to go to the audit committee on the 23rd of October and to the board of directors on November 6th. And again, I appreciate the audit staff willingness to help us through the recommendation. I think I mentioned in a previous meeting, I have received a lot of emails from public about the Rancho Lilac property located in the Valley Center community. And the community pretty much, because we're handing this Caltrans and us to a third party, the community was concerned about in the future, if we were to do trails for walking and biking, that we won't be able to do with a third party. My staff and I are working on a solution for that, and that is for Sandag to have an easement in the property, so in case in the future we need to build these trails, we will be able to. And given the volume of emails we received and some of our board members received, we will be holding a virtual workshop with the stakeholder Thursday, October 15th. Again, it's Thursday, October 15th. If you're interested to listen, this is a dialogue. We want to listen to the community. We want to explain to the community what we're doing. I don't have the October 15th Thursday time, but we will make sure you get a notice of the time. It's a Zoom meeting, virtual meeting, but I don't have the time with me, and I'll get back to you shortly. On the Del Mar Bluff, probably some of you seen in the news, the construction on phase 4 of the Del Mar Bluff stabilization project is progressing well. As you may have seen on TV this week, we have placed steel stabilization beams on the bluffs, and they have been getting a lot of attention. People are wondering what are these things that's going in the ground 20, 30 feet deep. That's phase 4. We are in design for phase 5 and 6. We have an application building with the California Transportation Commission for the trade corridor funds. If we get this fund, we will be very close to completing the funding for stabilizing this bluff for 20 to 30 years. The Otay Mesa East 2 border crossing, we're working with our partners from Caltrans. I want to thank Mario here, who's doing an amazing job. The construction continues on Route 11 and the State Route 125 southbound connector to State Route 11 and State Route 905. We are working with our Mexican partners, Mario and Gustavo and myself, and my team have been having great dialogues with officials from Mexico. we hope that things will move faster on the other side of the border. In our side, we're also doing what we call the traffic and revenue investment grade study that already started and will be coming soon to you. Our largest infrastructure project in San Diego history, what we call the Mid-Coast, that goes, once it's completed, you will be able to have one seat ride from the border to UCSD, is on schedule and on budget. And I've been in this business for 30 years. When you have a project of this size be on schedule, on budget, that's something to the team that's working on. So I'm very proud of that project. We're still geared to complete and turn it over to MTS to operate next November 2021. The Central Mobility Hub, this is near and dear to Councilmember Sankey here. We are working with our partners from the Navy, and I appreciate the partnership we have with the Navy. I want to inform you that we have put a bill, 2731, for CEQA reform. And I'm happy to report to you that the bill passed both houses in Sacramento unanimously. The bill was authored by Assemblymember Todd Gloria, co-authored by President Pro Tem Atkins. It's on the governor's desk to be signed toward the end of this month. Also, on the 7th of October, myself, the Mayor Faulkner, myself will be traveling to DC, to the Pentagon, to meet the new Secretary of the Navy, to just indicate how important this project for all of us. And finally, the Regional Transportation Plan, and as I said, the tribal workshop we had. This is the time when we want to hear from you, stakeholders. Let us make the 5 big moves about reimagining the future of San Diego, all of it, every part of it. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, that's my report. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Hassan. Appreciate it. Clerk Webb, do we have any questions for our director?
No, Vice Chair, I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Hassan, thanks again for the information. Much appreciated. Moving on to item number 4. It's my pleasure to welcome Chair Erica Pinto of the Jamul Indian Village of California, and also the Chair of the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, and Jane Clow Sandak Tribal Liaison. They will be presenting item number 4. But before they present item number 4, it's important that we recognize that the 4th Friday of September is California Native American Day. This is a very special day, and we really appreciate Chair Pinto's willingness to present this important milestone. Chair Pinto and Jane, it's all yours.
Appreciate it, Chair Escobar. That's what I call you. Is it Supervisor Chair Escobar?
You can call me Jesus. We don't need to have formalities, but thank you though.
My name is Erica Pinto, as you mentioned. I am the chairwoman of the Jamul Indian Village of California. Today I'm here representing Southern California Tribal Chair Association, also known as the SCTCA. As we sit on Sandag Board and its policy advisory committees, including this one, usually I represent SCTCA on the Transportation Committee, and am the co-chair of the Interagency Technical Working Group on Tribal Transportation Issues, and the chairwoman of the Native American Advisory Committee to Caltrans. I first want to thank the Borders Committee Chair for acknowledging that today is California Native American Day. This year we've actually been celebrating virtually, as everything else has been all year. This week we kicked off these virtual events beginning on Wednesday, September 23rd at 6, then on Thursday, September 24th at 6, and finally ending today at 10 a.m. with Governor Newsom and Christina Snyder as the guests of honor. And this was something put on by the California Tribal Chair Association and worked out really well. You can access these videos on Facebook. Just search California Native American Day Celebration to view. So we appreciate that the Borders Committee has given us some time today to have an opportunity to discuss issues of mutual concern with local governments. As the first people of this land, we respect and seek to enhance our relationship with all governments. We also recognize our shared responsibility in areas of the environment, economics, and quality of life. Our decisions impact one another. Our reservations are almost entirely in the eastern third of the region, but still very much a part of the region. And often the conversation at Sandag focuses on the urban areas, but our issues and concerns, along with those of rural communities, also need to be expressed. For over a decade, the SCTCA and Sandag have built a government-to-government framework for dialogue and action. We've worked together through several iterations of the regional plan, always pushing for more inclusion, collaboration, and that our interests be recognized. At the San Diego Regional Tribal Summit 2 years ago, we discussed policy areas of mutual concern, and in particular, the results of the intra-regional tribal transportation strategy and projects we identified as important to our tribal nations. We held a joint meeting with Borders Committee a little over a year ago, continuing that conversation. That was the first time we, as an inter-tribal council, had come to Sandag offices to share our ways. We continue to be consulted on the development of the vision for the 2021 regional plan and are hopeful that our issues will be incorporated. This summer, as an intertribal council, we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Sandag to implement collaborative policy objectives we agreed upon, including the legislative, transportation, cultural resource management, environmental preservation, energy, and economic development. Our initial focus is on how to work better together and to pursue our needed transportation projects. This MOU is a great step in helping us craft a better world for our people by making resources available to enhance our participation in the regional planning process. The SCTCA is pleased and grateful to the leadership and staff who have helped to make this possible. We've scheduled our next joint summit meeting for November 20th, 2020 at 12:30 on this platform again. I do appreciate the Borders Committee for giving us this time, and I very much appreciate Hassan Ikrada for collaborating with the tribes and always speaking and including the tribes in issues of mutual concern. Thank you so much, Hassan. Jane?
Thank you. That's it. We're good. Thank you.
Chair Pinto, thank you for that report, and thank you for bringing the date of November as far as our next joint meeting with SCTCA. Really appreciate it. I also want to mention that November is Native American Heritage Month, and it seems to be a great opportunity for us to basically get together again and be able to share processes and procedures and how we can benefit from working together as a collective team. So again, thank you, Chair Pinto.
Thank you, Chair.
Any comments, Clerk Webb?
No, sir, I don't see any hands raised from the public.
Okay, moving on to item number 5 on our agenda. Ms. Allison Moss will be presenting item number 5. Ms. Moss?
Hi, thank you for having me, Borders Committee and Chair Escobar. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, not now. Oh.
Not now. No, it was shared by default, I guess. New share. Okay, now?
We're good.
Okay, great. Yes.
Allison, you don't have to share your screen. The production team can put your slides up for you.
Sorry, I forgot. That was
no worries.
All right, so I will stop sharing and I'll wait till it's pulled up. Thank you, Francesca. So thank you again for having me. I was invited by Hector Venegas, who, knowing that this project had progressed quite a lot, thought that many of the members of the Borders Committee would be interested in receiving an update. Next slide, please. Just wanted to walk you through some of the background of the project. So the Border to Bayshore Bikeway project is part of Sandag's Early Action Program. It comprises $200 million of Transnet funds that'll build 77 miles of bikeway, 8.8 of which are open to date, and the vast majority are under design and close to being constructed. The Border to Bayshore Bikeway is down at the very southern part of the map. And next slide, please. As you can see, connects the border at the San Ysidro Port of Entry, specifically Ped East, with the Bayshore Bikeway in Imperial Beach. Next slide, please. And just to kind of underscore the philosophy of the Sandag Bike Program, we're always looking to provide safe and a low stress experience for people riding bikes. So if it's on a street with a lot of traffic, that means physically separating people riding bikes from fast moving cars. If it's a residential street or something that's sort of more, calm in nature, maybe we add a little bit of additional traffic calming features. Next, please. Developing this project, we looked very strongly and gave strong consideration to destinations that people would want to access in the area. So those would be schools, parks, commercial areas, and of course the border being a very important connection, and then the Bayshore Bikeway, which opens up to the whole route around the San Diego Bay. Next, please. We solicited a lot of public input. This was one of our 3 sort of large-scale open house meetings, and then we did a public hearing and several smaller events where we sort of piggybacked on local events that were going on. Next, please. And then lastly, here is the preferred route through all of those factors, looking at providing a low-stress experience, community input, and destinations we wanted to connect to. We came up with a 6.5 mile route that changes character a lot based on local context. So on 13th Street, for instance, in Imperial Beach, it's buffered bicycle lanes. Through the Otay Mesa Nestor area, it's more traffic calming because it's a residential street. Bayer Boulevard is a 2-way separated bikeway, so physically separated from the traffic. And it changes, like I said, very many times, but each treatment is dependent on context. Next, please. Just going to break down the treatments that we've proposed and that we have actually 100% plans for. Yeah, we can field a question by Councilmember Moreno right now. Zach is.
Allison,
Okay.
you can continue and we'll do questions after you're finished with your presentation.
So traffic calming are some of the major improvements that are included in this project, and I'll be able to show you some examples from actual 100% plans. These are still draft because they haven't been approved fully, but next, please. Francesca, next. Oh, thank you. So this is an example, Grove and Thermal Avenue in City of San Diego. And these are pedestrian pop-outs or curb extensions. And this is very close to what's going to be put in on the ground. So shortening the pedestrian crossing distances, adding landscaping, drought-tolerant landscaping. And this one happens to be near a school. So it'll provide better, safer routes to school for kids. Next, please. This is an area, Iris Avenue, is it kind of curves around, and we're also sort of extending the curb in this area to calm traffic, adding landscaping and shortening the pedestrian crossing distances. And yeah, this is just another way to calm traffic while also offering a placemaking opportunity. Next, please. Neighborhood traffic circles. So we try to fit them in where we can. They are effective at slowing traffic and at the same time allowing bicyclists to move through at a steady speed instead of stopping and starting a lot. And so this one is on Ingrid Avenue in Green Bay. Crosswalks, directional crosswalks on all of the legs. And there will additionally be some landscaping features on the corners. Next, please. Physical separation. So again, if we have a busy street, this is an example that is a rendering for Imperial Beach Boulevard and 13th Street. So this is what we call a bend out. And the idea is somebody riding a bike, instead of just kind of going and mixing with cars at the intersection and not knowing where to wait, drivers not knowing similarly how to navigate people on bikes. This gives everyone their own space and a sort of protective bay for them to wait. They're also going to be in advance of the cars, so more visible, and there's also some special intersection control that I'm going to show in the next few slides. Next, please. So here is the bend out feature, and it shows this bright green paint, which the city of Imperial Beach specifically requested. They have a lot of this on a project that they just cut the ribbon for and have opened to the public. And this is how the bend out works. So again, a bike lane, but then it doesn't just end at the intersection. It provides a dedicated space for people riding bikes to wait. Next, please. And this is, without getting too wonky or into the technical details, we are proposing a special innovative signal phasing in Imperial Beach at these bend out features. And we got special approval from the California committee that approves these sorts of things. And so what happens is people riding bikes and walking get to go first. They get a little bit of a head start, just a few seconds while drivers wait. And then next. And then next, people biking and walking still may continue, and people driving and trying to make right turns are permitted to go right, but to yield to people walking and biking. And finally, left turns go, and every other movement stops. So that's some special phasing that we're pretty happy to have approved, and really appreciate City of Imperial Beach's support in that effort. Next, please. So this is an example of both bicycle and pedestrian improvements. We are at the intersection of Oro Vista and Iris, and it's kind of this wide intersection today with really long crossing distances and not very great visibility. And so the improvements at this location are kind of tightening everything up. Shorter pedestrian crossing distances, more visibility for people walking, biking, and driving. Next, please. And then as we move, this is eastward and then eventually south on Iris. We have a separated bikeway. So down at the bottom of Iris, there's 2-direction bike path, and there's a concrete median separating. Next, please. And then this is a massive undertaking for Sandag, Caltrans, MTS, and the CPUC and City of San Diego. So this modifications at this intersection are putting a separated bikeway through the intersection, providing special traffic signal phasing to keep everyone safe. We also have the rail line adjacent there. And yeah, before I move on, I just wanted to say that Buyer Boulevard in general, it looks like we might have opportunity to include some landscape enhancements. And we have been working with staff of Council Member Vivian Moreno and appreciate that coordination. And we're hoping on this quarter, while it's just shown as concrete, to be able to include some landscape. Next, please. So then moving further, we have what we call a floating bus stop. This is the same principle that the bikeway be separated from moving traffic, but the buses now will pull up in the travel lane and pick passengers up from an island. So people riding the bus will cross from the sidewalk, pass the bikeway, wait on an island, then get picked up by the bus. And that just eliminates this kind of leapfrogging between bus drivers and bike riders using the same curb space. Next, please. Aesthetic enhancements. Like I said, we have a lot of native drought tolerant plants that we're looking to propose in the project. There are certain areas where it's probably relatively easy for us to include them, and then other ones maybe it's a little bit more of a process to get the plants included. But we did a lot of outreach on this project, and we think the community would be very supportive of aesthetic enhancements and beautification, especially in San Isidro. I think along Buyer, we've heard a lot of people would like shade trees and plants to make the route more enjoyable. So next slide, please. Here is our schedule. So as I mentioned, we're quite far along. The plans you're seeing are not fully approved because they're in design, but are quite developed, and we're hoping to be done with final design early or late January of next year, and then in construction 2022 through 25. Next, please. And there's my contact information. Thank you very much again for your time.
Ms. Moss, thank you for the presentation. I believe we had a comment from Councilmember Moreno.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Wonderful. Well, first and foremost, thank you to Ms. Moss for your presentation. I know you've been working very, very hard with my staff, so I really do appreciate that. And I'm sorry to hear that you're leaving, but we do appreciate all the work that you've done. The entirety of this project is in District 8, and it's going to impact, obviously, my constituents. So I've been very invested in the progress. Even before, as a staff member to Council Member David Alvarez, I was very involved. Obviously, connecting the Bayshore Bikeway to the San Ysidro Port of Entry, it's going to connect our binational region. I think promoting alternative methods of transportation. It's no secret that on a regular day, about 100,000 people cross the San Ysidro Port of Entry. And it's my hope that we're going to be able to incentivize alternatives to crossing the border. This is also going to allow District 8 residents and the rest of the community to enjoy the miles of bikeway San Diego has to offer. My office and Allison's team have been in communication with the community regarding this project. And my office has received overwhelming support for enhanced landscaping on Bayer Boulevard. So just to put that plug. And I think, this demonstrates not only the need of the facilities in District 8, but also our need to go above and beyond in creating a route that's aesthetically pleasing on top of it being safe. And this is going to attract commuters looking for alternative transportation options in Mexico. So I'm really looking forward to continuing our work with Sandag, and I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moreno. Clerk Webb, do we have any other comments?
No, Vice Chair, I do not see any hands raised from the public.
Yes.
Greg Cox. Just a couple of comments, if I could.
Go ahead.
Number one, I like Vivian. My district is entirely supervisorial districts includes this border to Bayshore bike route, and also it includes the entire Bayshore bikeway. And this is going to be a very vital linkage to the Bayshore bikeway. A couple of other things that are happening while this is moving forward. My understanding, Allison, is that the design's going to be done in January, probably late January of 2021, and then the construction is going to start in 2022 and go over 3 years. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, while this is going on, we did succeed. The county had put in for a request from the State Coastal Conservancy to get a planning grant to identify a route for the connector from the Bayshore Bikeway down to the Borderfield State Park. This is actually will be a part of the California Coastal Trail, of which the Bayshore Bikeway is a significant part of it in the San Diego region. So this is kind of exciting to see the border to Bayshore Bikeway plan moving forward. Hopefully the same time frame is probably going to be utilized to identify and hopefully construct. We still have to get the construction funding, but the connector from the Bayshore Bikeway down to Borderfield State Park. And then I guess I'll just take an opportunity. We've got a meeting coming up of the Bayshore Bikeway Working Group. Looks like we're working out some of the details with the Navy in regards to, and also City of San Diego in regards to the segment of the Bayshore Bikeway from 32nd Street up to the Convention Center. And that would include probably putting a second right-hand turn lane from southbound Harbor Drive into the 32nd Street Naval Facility. It also involves removing the kind of old dilapidated, well, it's not dilapidated, but it's the concrete bridge that spans over the 32nd Street and Harbor Drive. And then I think we're finally getting some things resolved to do an additional segment of the Bayshore Bikeway from Palomar Street down to the Salt Works. So a lot of good bicycling things coming together. And certainly the Border to Bayshore Bikeway is one of those projects I think is really going to be very much appreciated by the residents in San Ysidro and be a nice tie-in to everything else that we're doing. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Before we move on to item number 6, a shout out to Councilmember Moreno, City of San Diego, Supervisor Cox, County of San Diego, our chair, Sergio Dedina, Mayor of City of Imperial Beach, and everybody else involved. I just wish Imperial County had San Diego County weather so we could capitalize on these type of ideas and initiatives that obviously bring about so many good things for our community. So yes, I am a little jealous of you guys. Item number 6, who are we presenting item number 6? Mr. Orso, Caltrans, you're on.
Thank you. And actually the item is going to be presented by Carrie Robinson and Maria Rodriguez, the PMs, and I'll be here for any questions. So I'll pass it on to Carrie and Maria on the updates of the trade corridor enhancement applications and an update on Otay Mesa East.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Carrie Robinson. I'm a goods movement planner at Sandag, and I'll be presenting the first portion of this presentation on our Senate Bill 1 Trade Corridor Enhancement Program Cycle 2 applications, which were due on August 3rd. And I'm here also with Maria Rodriguez Molina, who's the Otay Mesa East project manager, and she'll provide an update on the Otay Mesa East project. Next slide, please. So before I dive into this map showing our applications, I wanted to give an overview on the TCEP program. The objective of TCEP is to fund projects that are vital to California's trade and freight economy on important freight networks. The projects also have to be consistent with goals found within statewide and national freight plans. And just one other note is that the program itself included federal and state funds, which I think is unique to some of our other SB1 programs. So another unique feature of TCEP is that it included targets for funding distribution based on our major corridors amongst the state. So there were 6 regional corridors, and our local one was the San Diego Border Corridor, which includes San Diego and Imperial counties. And in addition to setting up those corridors, the regional corridors would receive 60% of the funds. That was the target that was set for them. And the remaining 40% of the funds would be for Caltrans projects or projects that were in partnership with Caltrans. And to quickly give that percentage, for the San Diego Border Corridor, that was 11% was our target, which is approximately $91 million. And then for the Caltrans target, that 40% was around $556 million. Now to dive into the map itself, I wanted to show you the 4 applications that were submitted in the cycle 2. So starting with number 1, as Hassan mentioned earlier, there was an application for the Losan corridor. So that application included 5 rail projects that had freight benefits. And as Hassan mentioned, one of them was the Del Mar Bluff Stabilization 5 project. And in addition to that, that project was done with Sandag and Caltrans. And then moving to project number 2, which we'll dive into more details in a second, that is the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry Critical Path Forward project. That one was also done in partnership between Caltrans and Sandag. Moving to project number 3, that was a submittal by the City of San Diego for the La Media Road Improvements Project. And just to give a quick overview on that, as you're probably familiar, La Media Road is the major southbound truck route to the Otay Mesa Port of Entry. And then lastly, the Imperial County Transportation Commission submitted project number 4, which is the Calexico East Port of Entry Bridge Widening Project, which will be the next agenda item for today. And next slide, please. So I wanted to provide some quick overview of the amounts that were submitted. Since, as I mentioned earlier, Sandag and Caltrans jointly nominated the Losan and Otay Mesa East projects, we were able to ask for funds from the Caltrans portion of the targets and the regional portion of the targets. And you'll see in blue here, those are the regional asks, and then in we've also noted the Caltrans asks too. And just to also note, I wanted to mention that for our Otay Mesa East and Losan projects, Caltrans also had to do a statewide ranking of the priorities amongst the state. And Otay Mesa East actually received the top priority, so #1 priority statewide, and Losan received the 2nd priority statewide. So moving to the other 2 projects there, we also have, again, the Lamedia Road project, where the city asked for 22.7 million, and then ICTC asked for 7.48 million for the Calexico East project. And before I forget, I forgot to mention, for Losan, the total ask was 106.4 million, and for Otay Mesa East, it was at 42.52 million. And just to summarize again, when you sum up those blue columns there, you'll see that the regional ask ended up being 90.12 million, and that was slightly lower than what our regional target was, which was at 91.87 million. And lastly, for this slide, I wanted to also mention that the California Transportation Commission, who is the agency that will review these projects and decide on funding, their staff recommendations will be on November 12th, and then the program adoption would be on December 2nd of this year. Next slide. And so before Maria presents an update on the Otay Mesa East project, I briefly just want to dive into what our Otay Mesa East Critical Path Forward project TCEP ask was. So as you can see here in this image, it had a few different layers to this application. So our ask again was the 42.52 million. It included a few items. So the first was we included the utilities for the port of entry itself. So that would be utilities such as water, and sewer, and electricity. It also included funds for the relocation or protection in place of 2 existing gas lines. And those first 2 components I just mentioned were right-of-way funds, just to clarify. And then lastly, we asked for design dollars for the Otay Mesa East bridging document. And that document is the plans and specifications for the port of entry. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Maria.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, just want to go over the update of Otay Mesa East Port of Entry and the SR11. So what you see in blue are the segments that have been constructed so far, and that is the northbound connectors from 905 to 125 and SR11, and the main lanes from the connections of the other 2 freeways to Enrico Fermi. Next, what you see in orange are the segments that are currently under construction or about to start construction within the next 3 months. So those are the southbound connectors from 125 to 905 and SR11. And also the main lanes from Enrico Fermi that will go all the way to the port of entry. Also, the project that will start probably early next year is going to be the interchange at Siempre Viva. So what remains to be funded are 3 segments: the port of entry itself, the commercial vehicle enforcement facility, and that's a facility that has the scales where all the trucks have to go through, and then the intelligent transportation system. And that system is gonna put together this binational information with the border wait times, with the toll rates at Otay Mesa East, incident management. It's going to be a very complex binational system. So the benefits of Otay Mesa East are here on the right side. It will reduce wait times. Not only the port has a goal to provide a wait time of 20 minutes, but by taking some of the demand from the other ports, it reduces the overall system wait times. It will reduce greenhouse emissions. It will fuel the economy, enhance the regional mobility, strengthen the border security and resiliency, and finally bolster the binational trade. So far, we have committed $523 million, and those were spent on right-of-way acquisition and all the roadway construction, as well as some parts of the ITS system. Next slide, please. Here we want to give you an overview of everything we've been working on in the past few months. So as Hassan mentioned before, we have started the investment grade traffic and revenue study. We started in July, and it's scheduled to be done by mid next year. However, we do know that given COVID-19 pandemic, we might have a slight delay in data collection. So we'll brief you in the future on the progress of the study. That traffic and revenue study would allow us to go into the financing and bonding so that we can start in 2022 the construction of the port of entry. We're also currently working, Carrie is the project manager for the business case. This business case will collect all of the studies that we have completed so far, gather all the cost information, gather all the revenue from the planning level traffic and revenue study. And then this document will help us facilitate conversation with all the agencies on both sides of the border. Next, in orange, you can see the construction activities and design activities. As I mentioned before, all roadway is under construction. And if we are successful with the TCEP application, we'll begin utility relocation probably spring of next year. I'm also working on the CBP technical package. This is a required CBP document that gathers all of the technical requirements, and then we can pull all of this information together on a bridging document that has the specs and plans. And then finally in 2022, we could begin the design build project. There are teams working on policies and agreements, and we had the strategic communications team led by Teddy, working side by side with all of the teams. Next slide, please. Here we wanted to give you an overview of everything that we have invested and future investments that we need to make. So in gray, you can see the amounts on the US facilities are in dollars, and in the Mexico facilities are in pesos. So we have funded $110 million for right-of-way, and we have acquired all of the right-of-way. So we have full possession of the right-of-way for the roadway and the port. We have invested $413 million on the roadway, and we have a need between $300 to $360 million for the port of entry on the US side. As far as Mexico facilities, they have funded the right-of-way acquisition. They just started the right-of-way acquisition process. And it remains to be funded the roadway and the port. Those numbers are in pesos, and they're about, for the roadway, $100 million, and for the port of entry, somewhere between $70 million to $100 million. The previous traffic and revenue study, the planning level one, which we presented results at this committee, maybe I think it was in February this year. It highlighted that we can bond between $400 to $400 million. So we know there is a small gap between the needs and the bonding capacity. And if that's the case, we're confident that with your help, we can close that gap to fund all of the facilities. And I think this concludes the quick update today. But if you have any questions, please let us know.
Ms. Robinson, Ms. Rodriguez, thank you for the presentations. I don't see any hands up. Clerk Webb, am I missing somebody that wants
Yes,
to?
Vice Chair, Councilmember Moreno would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead. I apologize, Councilmember Moreno, for missing you.
Here we go. No worries. Here's another one in my district that I'm very excited about. And I want to thank staff for the presentation. And I also want to commend city staff, my city staff, City of San Diego, for applying to these grants. As many of you know, I've consistently promoted the importance of La Media Road, which connects truckers to the Otay Mesa port of entry. And it is the primary commercial truck facility in the region and the second busiest along the US-Mexican border. In 2019, over $47 billion worth of trade crossed the Otay Mesa port of entry. And it's worth noting that the trucks crossing through Otay Mesa port of entry use a city street, La Media Road, to connect to the port of entry and the freeway. With the increase of commerce amongst the two nations, we need to continue to ensure our infrastructure can handle the growing numbers. And I think as we talk about the future of commerce in our region, we must discuss the movement of goods and transportation and take into account the impact it has in our region. I was not aware that it would have been good for me to present, do a little bit more of a presentation on La Media, just to showcase the regional importance of this city street. I know a lot of folks in Otay Mesa eat and breathe La Media, but I think people around the region don't really understand how important it is for our commerce. So I'm crossing our fingers that we do receive the funding, and should the vice chair or the chair permit, I would love to have city staff present on where we are with the La Media Road. Thank you.
As the vice chair, I welcome that, Councilmember Moreno. I think it would benefit all of us to have that information. So I would welcome that at our next meeting, if at all possible. I'll let the powers that be dictate the agenda for our next meeting. But again, that would definitely be beneficial for all of us. I also want to give a shout out for the presentation. I think Goods Movement is an incredible important aspect of our region. And I take into, when I say region, I mean Imperial County and San Diego County. As a question to the presenters and to Mr. Orso as well, have we looked at down the road, this is not something that's going to happen today or tomorrow, obviously, but looking at a East County corridor that would connect potentially Riverside County in a much more, and San Bernardino County, and obviously LA County as well, in a much straightforward fashion. I'm just wondering if that has been thought of at Sandag or at Caltrans in this case.
Well, I thank you for the question. I think the I-15 coalition has been looking between the different states and counties on different ways of connecting goods movement. I think the RTP, as well as the Caltrans freight transportation plan, state plan, we are looking at connecting the intra-regional freight. We are seeing that there is a substantial uptick in freight movement. And, you know, this is a good example right now, COVID, you know, supposedly traffic is down at the border, but if we look at the freight numbers, they're actually higher than what they were last year by a couple of percentage points. So that's telling us that with the new USMCA, we will probably have a substantial uptick in trade numbers and demand for our corridors. And that's what, you know, also what the council member Moreno's bringing up. It's one, improving our existing border crossings and networks to the existing crossings like La Media, like Enrico Ferme, that the current construction job that we're doing is improving for the current job. Adding scales to the weight station, what Mark Bassa is going to be presenting, improving the Calexico East Bridge, and also us in Caltrans improving that weight station, and also, Vice Chair, looking at the regional corridors to do a better connection on all the supply chains that we need to look into. So it is a challenging and daunting task that we have upcoming to us in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. And again, piggybacking on your comments about USMCA, I call it NAFTA 2.1, but USMCA, obviously, we look forward to continued growth and an significant increase in movement, both in the Imperial County commercial corridor, which is Calexico East, as well as both Otay Mesa and Otay Mesa East. So there will be increased traffic, and we need to account for that. My one issue, well, not issue, but my other question would be to both yourself as well as Sandag is, have we had, and I know the answer is going to be yes, but have we had discussions with our Mexican counterparts from a funding perspective? Because I did see in the chart, one of the last charts presented, that we are slightly ahead of Mexico from a funding perspective. And I'm just wondering if Mexico from a federal perspective, because this is a federal project, are they fully on board and willing to look for means to capitalize this type of investment?
Yes, we have ongoing discussions. We have several working tables with Mexico. One is a agreement, a working table where we're discussing all the different agreements from a single toll location, the technical needs. And then we're also having other working tables looking at the technical issues and calculating the cost of the projects and the connections. So Mexico, just to let you know, have this month, I think, did secure the company that's going to be acquiring the right-of-way for their port of entry. And they also secured a project manager contract and awarded it to kind of corral all the Mexican agencies and coordinating, similar to what we do as a team. This team that's presenting to you, we kind of bring everybody together and move the project forward. And that's what was missing in Mexico. So that Mexico has also done that and funded that. So those are encouraging signs. Like Hassan mentioned, we have had some high-level meetings. We're also aware that the Secretary of Foreign Relations, Marcelo Ebrard, has been holding infrastructure meetings for the border, and this project has been a focal point. So yes, we have been coordinating substantially. We have seen signal from Mexico moving forward. We wish they would be moving more to the par, but you know, we're working towards getting to that point, and we see encouraging signs.
Mr. Orso, thank you for the information. Again, a part of council members' presentation, if that could be complemented also with a secondary presentation on funding from the Mexican side, I think it would be beneficial for all of us, just to keep everybody in the loop.
We'll reach out to our Mexican partners and see if that, you know, invite them for an update on them presenting an update of the project. So we will reach out to them if that's what you would like to see from them.
That would be wonderful. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Clerk Webb, do we have any other comments? I don't see any hands raised.
Sir, Councilmember Sankey has his hand raised.
And again, I apologize. I spoke too soon. Councilmember Sankey, my apologies. Go ahead.
No problem, Jesus, and you're doing a great job. Serge is going to have some big shoes to fill when he comes back. And I think I saw Greg Cox raising his hands earlier. So we're $500 million into this, and Jesus, you rightly pointed out that we're hoping to see some action on the other side of the border that is going to complement our improvements in this trade corridor. The money from Fonadine for and Mario, your what did you call it? Encouraging signs, or I'll think cautiously optimistic that we're moving in the right direction down there. And I concur with Jesus that we should have a presentation from that side to build in some confidence for us on our side of the border to make sure that things are moving well. I went down to Mexico 2 weeks ago and saw bulldozers and workers in the concrete part of the Tijuana River. So I know if we work hard enough, we can get things done on any project. And seeing activity in the border in terms of the cleanup for the Tijuana River was super encouraging. And Mario, you stay on top of this one and bring us back some good news from south of the border. As we talk about corridor demand, let's not forget about the Tecate rail line. And maybe at an upcoming meeting, we could have an update on how that's going. I think that presents some real opportunities to get some trucks off of La Media, off of Fermi, and provide another avenue to help us move freight across the border. I remember vividly a meeting in Tecate where there's 60 or 70 customers down there ready to put their stuff on that rail line when it gets going. And I think from the internal side at Sandag, it may take a lot more effort on our side of the border to move this project forward. Anyway, so those are my comments, and actually, Jesus, you did ask the right question, and so I look forward to hearing more about the activities on the south side of the border for this project. And Hector made an opportunity for me to come down and visit the site. I'm sure everybody else has the same opportunity to do so. So, and I would look for emails from Hector and the team at Sandag to go down and tour the site, because it's a pretty impressive built environment down there so far. I look forward to coming down for my second trip. Thank you.
Yeah, we have an open invitation for all the board members. Of course, coordinated via Hector and the clerk and Tessa, so we can keep everybody, appropriate distances and all that. We can't do it all together, but we are putting out offers to come and tour the job site and see, how close we're getting to the border now.
Thank you, Councilmember Sankey.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And again, I completely agree with your comments about basically making sure that we have the funding for it. It takes two to tango whenever we're talking about an international border. We can't do it alone. Yeah. Moving on to item number 7, Mr. Baza, long time no see. Hope you're doing well.
Vice Chair, I'm so sorry. We have a couple more hands raised on this item before we move on. Supervisor Cox had his hand raised, and Jim Linthicum from Sandag would like to speak as well.
I don't see Mr. Cox's hand, but you're right. Supervisor Cox, if you want to make a couple comments.
Yeah, just very briefly. I like Vivian. Vivian and I are sharing a lot in common because both of these projects are in our district, and the second border crossing actually is being developed in the unincorporated area of the county. And I just have to tell you that I am so impressed with the progress and the speed with which this is going. And I want to thank Mario for the hard work he's been doing over the years. I have to tell you, I didn't shave today because I'm actually up in Big Bear and this is very relaxing. And the rest of you looking really sharp. Clean shaven. And Mario, I don't think I've ever seen you looking better, But in any event, thank you for all the hard work that's gone into this. I think this is on a pretty aggressive timeline, and I know it's been the result of a lot of work with Caltrans and certainly Sandag and all the other participants. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lincecum, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Jim Linthicum. I'm the head of the capital program. I'm Hassan's chief of the capital program. And sometimes in the region, we take these project teams like you're seeing today for granted. But this, believe it or not, is pretty unique as statewide and somewhat nationwide. Kerry and Maria and Hector are all Sandag employees. Mario is the corridor director, head of the whole thing, and he works for Caltrans, and he's got a team. We have consultants that work for both of us, along with the City of San Diego staff. And because this is such a seamless partnership, you get results like you're seeing today. You're getting these things are going at a breakneck pace, and you get the #1 and the #2 ranked projects for the TCEP statewide as ranked by Caltrans. So thank you for allowing me to have a minute to sort of brag on the team.
Thank you, Mr. Lincecum, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor Cox, for the comments. Now I'm done double check to make sure I didn't skip anybody. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Clerk Webb, am I incorrect in that?
Yes, sir, you are correct. I do not see any hands raised either.
Wonderful. We appreciate the feedback and the participation from the entire group. Item number 7, Mr. Baza.
Thank you, Chair. Staff will be pulling up a presentation shortly, but I'll just make some initial remarks as they queue that up. great comments by Jim Linthicum and others regarding the work that the Caltrans team and Sandag team is doing on the Otay Mesa East, and I'm so proud of that group. You know, I have a little ownership as I was part of that team at one time, and I'm just so happy to see that they're just carrying it forward at a very good pace. And so congratulations to them. So I'm here today to share with you a little update on our Calexico East Port of Entry project, the bridge widening project. The top picture there shows you what the existing bridge looks like, and the picture below shows what we're proposing to add is 4 new lanes. But the goals of the project is to reduce the delays at the border crossings, and particularly the queuing on the bridge. You know, and it'll serve well for a future project that Customs and Border Protection and GSA plan to expand the port of entry with some additional lanes for trucks and autos. And so that's you know, the reason for the project. In addition to, you know, we talk about a lot of trade value at the San Diego ports of entry, and rightly so. But we have about $35 billion in trade at this port of entry pre-COVID. So it's a significant to us. The delays to our economy is significant, and that's why we've pressed forward with this project. The 4 lanes that we're adding on the east side of the bridge will be ultimately adding 2 more truck lanes and 2 more auto lanes. We'll be shifting, we'll construct on the east side, but we'll shift to add 2 more lanes for autos on the west side. Next slide, please. So here's the funding that we've had committed to the project, $3 million for the project approval. And then we received a $20 million grant from the federal government's build program. And then we had $2 million in our local contribution from our Measure D half-cent sales tax program. And as Carrie had talked about earlier, we have approximately a $7.5 million request to the CTC for a shortfall, not for the work to complete the 4-lane widening, but to add some additional scope elements that we've identified as needed. One element of that is some deferred maintenance that GSA has not done since it was built back in 1996. Any maintenance to that bridge, as well as to add a canopy over the pedestrian pathway. And so we're looking forward to that as part of our project as well. Next slide. So this is a bigger picture of the widening improvement, and you'll see in the center we'll have to do some shifting of the pedestrian pathway which is in the median of that bridge. But it just going back to some things that, you know, led us to this point. Right now we're going through our procurement process for design build, but there's been a lot of work getting to this point with the help of our Caltrans partners, particularly Mario Orso and his team, and project manager Nicola Bernard from Caltrans, and my own project manager Virginia Mendoza. Earlier this year we completed an environmental document and project report, and no simple task, as you can imagine. And this is not a simple project or report. It was robust in the fact that we wanted to give our design build team a running start as we move forward into that phase of the project. And so where we are right now, most recently we've gotten commitment from our Mexican partners to take care of their portion of the approach on the Mexican side of the border. They're looking at also creating some opportunities for pickup and drop off for pedestrians closer to the border. And we're excited about that. And we're also looking at as future funding opportunities for pedestrian and bicycle access at that port of entry so that we might have some similar improvements closer to the border on our side of the border, but it is not part of this project. We are also working on a donation acceptance agreement with GSA. It is their bridge, and the only way that they will allow this to happen is that we give this under donation authority that they have created. And so my board, we have been working with the attorneys with GSA, and my board just recently approved the draft document donation agreement, and we expect GSA and their attorneys all the way from their DC office to follow suit with approvals on their side of the border. GSA is definitely a partner, as we, all the procurement documents that we prepared have included GSA's requirements for this project. So we're currently in the RFQ, RFP process. We initiated the RFQ process earlier this year, and we just received our 3 proposals of design build teams for the project. All 3 teams were found to be qualified, and now we're going through the RFP process. So we submitted the RFP documents to the design and construction firms, and they're preparing their proposals that are due in November. And with all that, we expect to have approval by the ICTC board to give a notice to proceed early in January of next year or February in the worst case scenario. So we're moving forward with the project. If in the best case scenario in February, that our design build teams are in progress and moving forward with the project. And with that, I think I'll just conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Boz. I really appreciate it. Obviously, any type of infrastructure project that assists from a goods movement and an economic development perspective, be it in San Diego County, Imperial County, assists the entire region. So I really appreciate your insistence on this project, because I know it's been on the table for a couple of years now. So I appreciate your efforts in pushing this through. The same question does hold through when it comes to Otay Mesa East, and in this case, the Calexico East expansion. Where do we stand from a funding from a Mexican federal perspective? Do you have any insights on that?
Well, well, we haven't seen the budget, but we have received a formal commitment from them to take care of their part of the approach improvements at the border.
And from a timing, thank you. And from a timing perspective, I believe, if I remember correctly, Otay Mesa East, all things holding steady, we're looking at a 2024 potentially for a grand opening, if I remember the chart correctly. Where do you stand from a completion perspective? What is the target year, assuming all goes well?
Yeah, thank you. We forgot to include a schedule slide for this, but staff had one, and we forgot it. Anyhow, we're planning to complete construction in 2022.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you for the information, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Baza. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person very soon.
Yes.
Instead of in Zoom.
Or seeing you in the news.
Absolutely. I don't know about that one. Councilmember Moreno, you do have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me, and thank you for the update. I would love to get a tour. It's been years since I've been out there, and I was pretty young when I was out there. So would that be something that you would be willing to accommodate, maybe for some here on the border committee, just to get to know a little bit more of I don't think much has changed since I crossed. It was a pretty small crossing, but you guys have, well, anyways, I would love to get a tour of the port of entry or port of entries out there and just to really get a grasp of this.
No,
Councilmember Moreno, you're always welcome to come to
Yes.
Imperial County. I'm sure
Yeah.
Mr. Bazanai could give you the tour. Mr. Cox, you're all welcome as well. I know you're both the border czars for San Diego County and the city of San Diego. Serge Dedina isn't here, but I know he loves Mexico, so he would love the tour. And again, this is probably the best weather we're going to get. We're excited because we're trying to break under 100 for the first time in like 4 months. So
Yeah. We'll go in
October, November are great dates.
Absolutely. Thank you.
As Supervisor said, we're welcome us to coordinate a tour and have take you down there.
This is Greg Cox. I'd love to take you up on that offer too.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that.
You're very welcome, Supervisor Cox. Councilmember Zanke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And a stop at Celia's would be in order, I think, too. So my question, Mark, great to see you again. It's been too
Same.
long. We've got this tolling sort of operation that we're looking at for the new crossing here in our area. Is there, I noticed a big improvement in the commercial side for this particular crossing in Mexicali. And is there a toll, or will any change in the fees that get paid by the folks using that help cover the cost, or is there any kind of a mechanism within this particular project for that kind of a fund?
Well, some of my Caltrans colleagues and we know that we are, one of our original concepts was to pay for the bridge expansion as well as the port of entry expansion using a toll. And we really did have a private entity working with us on pursuing the potential for that. But at the end of the day, what happened was that there was a lot of pushback from the federal government for tolls. Our original concept was to just toll the expanded lanes and not toll the existing lanes. And that's where the problem became. Our finance folks estimated that they needed to toll the entire lanes in order to make it a viable project. That definitely did not fly with the federal government. And then so the infrastructure that we have at that port of entry was really kind of challenging to carry out the toll collections, certainly within the federal property if they weren't willing to support tolling all lanes. And then the other structures, we really only have a limited space beyond the bridge for
right,
toll
when you're crossing the
collections.
canal, you've got some geographic issues there too.
Yeah, so we have those issues.
So maybe I should know the answer to this question, but if I'm a trucker and I'm coming across with my load of whatever it is, do I pay a fee to get inspected and head into the United States, or is that just a cost of doing business as far as operating the facility?
I think Supervisor Escobar could speak to that, but it is just a part of doing business. And
yeah, because I would think it would be a win-win for a company to be able to get their truck across in a significantly smaller amount of time and still have the ability to make some money on that run, even providing some type of remittance to the folks at the facility. But on the other hand, I applaud you for having looked at it. I understand there's more than 6 sides to a 6-sided dice when it comes to government projects. So I think you guys have moved way far forward with this project, and salute you in the efforts you've made so far. I look forward to seeing it completed.
So, Supervisor, if I may, this is Mario Orso. In addition to what Mark mentioned, there's a couple of items here that we looked at this project. First of all, from a differential point of view, Calexico East is widening an existing facility, but yet the transportation facility leading to the port of entry and the port of entry there already exist. Not like Otay Mesa East that we're developing everything. It's a $1 billion job. And this one, you know, that was, the facilities already existed, so therefore we couldn't tow them or anything like that. But what the beauty of Calexico is, and it's going to help us in San Diego, is that we have what's called the California Sustainable Freight Action Plan, and this, our borders are a pilot program, and there are several ideas that we have to implement how to expedite trucks crossings, from appointment services to giving preferential access to not low emission trucks or other different ideas. And the widening of the Calexico East Bridge is going to allow us to implement those type of ideas and pilot them in Calexico. And if they're successful, then we would be applying them in Otay Mesa East and existing Otay. So to us, it's a wonderful opportunity, because that job is going to be online earlier, and it could allow us to do those intelligent transportation pilot programs, like doing an appointment services or other front of the line services, and figuring that out. So I just wanted to leave it there. There may be even a pricing element that we haven't yet discussed or not, but this job is going to give us that opportunity.
Fantastic. I'm applaud you again for that nimble thinking, and keep up the good work.
Councilmember Zanke, just to reiterate, I believe you had a question on fees, and there is no fees for movement. The border wait times for commercial traffic in the Calexico commercial port vary because of seasons. We don't have a 12-month season from a farm agricultural perspective. It usually runs roughly between the months of October and May. They ramp down in June and they start ramping up in September, but the strongest months are October through May. So it is very seasonal in nature. Obviously, the Maquiladora system is 24/7, 365, similar to Tijuana. But again, we do have a slow season as far as border wait times from a commercial perspective. But again, there is no fee for service as being presented potentially for Otay Mesa East, just to reiterate that question and that comment. Let me just double check here. No more raised hands. Clerk Webb, am I missing anybody?
No, sir. I do not see any hands raised from members or from the public.
Okay, I think this will conclude our meeting. Prior to its conclusion, though, I do want to welcome from the city of Carlsbad, Ms. Priya Patel. Welcome to Sandag Borders Committee. If you want to state any comments, Ms. Patel, you're welcome to do so. Okay, we will move on to our next Borders Committee meeting. It's tentatively scheduled for Friday, October 23rd. And with this, I will conclude the meeting. Thank you very much for participating. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in person very soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jesus. Great job.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.